So, good morning. Welcome to my live show. And today I want to talk about the economy of this country. And I think what I'm talking about is something that I've been saying for a very long time, that we actually supposed to be in one of the worst economic situation in this country, basically because of some of the internal and external challenges that we have had or we have as a country. Now, I know everybody is complaining right now because of the high cost of goods and services in the country, but I want to talk about why some of these things are happening. And this is what we call inflation. In fact, when I'm teaching about inflation, I actually give two definitions of inflation: persistent increase in the prices of the commodities as our currency loses value, or too much money chasing very few goods. So those are the two definitions that I usually have for for inflation. Now, if you look at our case right now, we have persistent increase in the prices of the commodity as the our currency is also losing value. Now, there are three factors that actually cause inflation in this country, and I think these are some of the things that I've talked about in my other lives. And one of them is what we call drought. Anytime we have a drought, anytime you see that we have less rain, one of the challenges that we are going to have as a country is what we call a drought-driven inflation. And if you look at right now, one of the biggest challenge we have is that we have not had good rains in the last 2 years. And because of that, we have a shortage of food, and that shortage of food is the one that is actually pushing the prices of all these other commodity or food commodities up in the country. So unless we solve the problem of food in this country, then we are going to have a problem of inflation anytime we do not have enough rainfall. Why? Because our agriculture is rain-fed agriculture. So as the government is making its policies, one of the areas that they should actually look at is how we can be able to be food dependent, but not just relying on what we call rainfall for feeding Kenyans. Now, the other challenge that we have is the issue of import driven inflation. If you look at Kenya as a country, we have what we call an import-driven country, product consumption in this country. And because of that, anytime we have a problem of food, we tend to go for some of those foods and services outside Kenya. And because our balance of trade is usually very poor, meaning that the number of our export and the number of our import, the difference is very big. Actually, we import more than we export. Then what happens is that we have a strain of the currency, of the foreign currency, the dollar, basically because our import increases. And because of that, then what usually happens is that we have the depreciation of our currency because of high demand of the dollar. And that is what is happening today. If you look at the statistics that have been given, you will see that our import last year increased by 16 billion shillings. An increase in the import means a higher demand for the foreign currency. And that is another trigger for some of the problems that you are seeing, because when we have our currency depreciating against the international currency, then and we are an import-oriented country, then what happens is that the products that are going to be coming to Kenya becomes more expensive because imports becomes more expensive. And with that, then what happens is that the prices of the commodity increases and we have increased inflation. The other challenge we have is the issue of what has been happening in the global market, the problem of Ukraine and Russia. The impact of that war has a negative also impact to our economy, because you see majority of the things that we consume, some of the things that we consume come from that country, the gas, the wheat and all these other things. And therefore, when we have higher prices, when we have higher prices due to the war, then we are also affected in one way or another. And because even the war is affecting the whole global atmosphere, economic atmosphere, then even as Kenyans become part and parcel of people of the country that are being affected by some of those challenges. Now, the other challenge that we have in this country is the debt. If you look at the amount of money that we are collecting as a country, and you also look at the ratio of that money, the ratio of the debt to the GDP, then you see that we are actually moving to one of the worst positions in this country. Because for every shilling that we collect in this country, about 68 cents are supposed to pay for the debt. So all what is remaining is about 32 cents. Now, the 32 cents that remains, the one that is supposed to be for development and the one that is supposed to be for recurrent expenditure. That is why you see, if you look at the supplementary budget, what the government has done is to cut most of the development budget and leave the recurrent expenditures or the recurrent budget, basically because the amount of money that is available is very low. Now, the challenge with that is that the government starts looking for ways in which they can be able to increase their revenue. And one of the ways in which they are trying to see whether they can be able to increase the revenue is by increasing taxes, coming up with other tax measures that can be able to make it collect more and more money, which is also a negative effect to our businesses and also to individuals. So what I'm trying to say is that 2023 is not a good country for us. It will not be a good year for us. And as a country, we need to start thinking about how we can be able to solve the economic challenges. As peoples, we need to tighten our belts and try to see how we can be able to live with some of these challenges that we have. So thank you very much for listening to me, and we hope that things are going to get better.